Thanks, Jerry. Now something entirely different. There's going to be a couple of presentations on materials, I believe, and as Friedman once said, what is technology apart from an idea wrapped in a material? We're an ASX-listed company. Excuse me. We're becoming a vertically integrated company that mines material in Sweden, processes it currently in Germany, and turns it into graphene-rich products from our product development division in the UK. We're essentially heading towards becoming the world's largest and lowest cost provider of graphene. We can do that through some of our unique assets, which I'll introduce to you now. So there is our operational base, mostly with 25 people employed now. The bulk of those are chemists and scientists in Germany. What our advantages are start from being in the ground. We own our own source of carbon, which is the highest JORC or NI43 investment grade graphite resource in the world. It's located in Sweden, which is a great jurisdiction. If you're a long-term manufacturer like a Samsung or a Panasonic or someone that is concerned about your supply chain integrity, somewhere like Sweden is very good. It also has hydroelectric power, so it's got a good green budget, as it were. The carbon dioxide emissions budget for your product is lowered by starting off your production process in a place like Sweden as compared to other parts of the world. And of course, it's a very good investment jurisdiction as well. We have a pilot plant operating in Germany, which is scaling up the process, which we own, so that's 100% owned processing technology as well, patent pending, and we've recently bolted on essentially a product development group, which is involved in taking material out to customers. One of the things we'll build in future will be a better one of these, I think, sorry. So we have a huge amount of products that are starting to commercialise and are coming out into the marketplace now. Although it's fair to say also that we're pre-revenue right now, we're not trying to retail material. We create prototypes and master batches for other large companies to take on. And we do that in a very environmentally friendly way. So what are we focusing on today? We own many assets, but the main one we're working on is graphene. Graphene is a two-dimensional form of carbon. So if you imagine graphite, which is a crystalline form of carbon, and one piece of graphite, the thickness of your fingernail, consists of 3 million layers of graphene. So graphene is a single layer. It's very, very thin. And strangely, 10 years ago, scientists found, while on their way to winning the Nobel Prize for this material, that the thinner you are, the more electricity it conducts, and the more temperature it conducts, and the stronger it is. So it's 200 times stronger than steel, weight for weight, and it's the most conductive, lightest and strongest material in the world. And so what we do is make that material and put it into products to impart those qualities into other things. So essentially what Talga is doing is making your materials stronger, lighter, faster, more conductive, giving you options on how they work. So it's a very, very large market for those products, which spreads across most technologies. In particular, people are very interested in batteries, the battery space, which is not just in consumer electronics and transport. There's a huge amount of electricity needed to be stored and transported at a larger scale, at a grid scale and microgrid scale. That landscape is changing rapidly, and it's no surprise to anyone that's watched things like lithium and cobalt pricing lately to realise that batteries are a megatrend. They're something that you can rely on as the world's population increases, and these challenges we have in the world economically and environmentally, batteries are going to be continuing to increase in their volumes, and that's part of what we make. As part of that story, there are flexible, what are called thin film printed batteries. These are things that can go into devices such as Nihira's buds. They can go into wearables, into your T-shirts or into your clothing. This market currently is worth about 29 billion today in organic electronics that are already existing, and with wearables that's expected to double over the next 10 years. Yesterday, we announced that we have done a deal to supply a printed battery company. So essentially we can make flexible, ultra-thin batteries that are based more on plastics rather than metals, and that allows them to be used in many, many things. That's one of the products we can make. So our product strategy is not like a normal sort of mineral supplier. We're not based on raw materials. We also have a product development team, and we actually integrate our materials into products. we produce a prototype of those products, and that allows us to get licensing revenue. So coming into how do we make money, we can actually make money from essentially before we go full scale by gathering licensing and royalty revenue during the scale-up phase, during the pilot plant. And we are not trying to invent all the futuristic products of the world ourselves. What we do is produce a product that can be substituted into what's already currently using carbon, or currently using zircon, or currently using zinc, or currently using some sort of polymer, and we just substitute the graphene into that product space with a big company, and then they will actually carry our product development forward for us, which then creates the volume sales that we want as we continue to grow the company. So it's a virtuous loop. But it's not just raw materials. We get a lot more margins than that. We're focusing on batteries, I just mentioned. The other areas that we've identified as being very high volume, but very quick to commercialise in the marketplace is cements and concretes, making them conductive for electricity and also making them thermally conductive as well. Also making them stronger. So as much as 0.5 to 1% graphene has been shown to make concrete increase its strength by as much as 50%. This means you can have lower volumes of cement in an application and less CO2 as well. Coatings is a big market potential for us. It's a 120 billion a year industry. Graphene's been shown to increase corrosion performance on some products by 300%. And lastly, carbon fibre, which is polymer composites going into carbon fibres, which is part of the lightweighting trend that goes alongside your electricity. At the heart of what we do is our patent pending process, which is to run an electric current directly through a rock we dig in Sweden, and by running electric current through it in a mixture there that's 99% water, we can get graphene to exfoliate out of the rock in this single step. So this was essentially a groundbreaking world first when we debuted it 2 years ago. Obviously I can't show you the more technical and commercial side of what we're doing now on that, but that was an early experiment to show graphene, which is very hard to make, very expensive material to make, and we can get it straight out of the rock in a single step, and we then extract the graphene from that mixture. The waste products and the larger graphite particles fall to the bottom, and in this way we actually produce a bell curve of products that we can sell or choose to turn into other products. As you can see, that's very simple. It's ambient pressure. It's ambient temperature, meaning that you don't have to ramp this thing up either in a vacuum or in a pressure chamber under certain conditions. You don't have to hit it with nasty acids to make it work. It's very, very simple. It's very, very elegant, and you can only do it if you've got the right ore body, which is what we have. The graphene we produce is very good quality. What you're seeing there, those four little squiggly lines, is one atom each layer. So to come from that millions and millions of layers down to a single layer is very, very economically difficult, and we're able to do it through this unique combination of our process and the resource. Just touching on the resource, it's very large. The formation outcrops over 60 kilometres long. We have already outlined 20 years of mine life from less than 8% of the material being drilled. We have total JORC compliant exploration targets up to 250 million tonnes. They're the largest graphite resources in Europe, which are most useful at a time when you've got gigafactories of batteries for cars being built in Europe. You can see there that we mine differently. We don't drill and blast. We carve the rock. The rock essentially is an electrode. It already conducts electricity better than most metals. It's a semiconductor straight out of the ground. Being Sweden, we're close to fantastic infrastructure. Our storage shed has a railway line running through it that connects our material directly to Germany and to our main customers' targets throughout Europe. And we, at the moment, because the graphene is so high value, we only have to campaign mine. So this keeps this is a new generation style of mining. It's dust-free essentially. So the process is wet. The mining is done without drilling and blasting. It's a very friendly way of doing it. At the pilot plant, which we also can't show you much of there, we've converted up to 76% of our graphite into graphene, which means that we can scale up. This would be essentially what would be the world's lowest cost way to make any volume of graphene that you want. It's just a matter of adding modules and making it larger. So we're in phase 2 of that scale up. We have a strategy behind how we go about developing our products, which you can read about by looking at the presentation later if you wish. We'll just touch briefly on some of those products. We've already made lithium-ion batteries. We've already made printed batteries. We have prototypes of these things currently underway at the Warwick University in the UK, and they're continuing to scale up very, very well. We use a lot less steps than other companies. Other companies basically drill and blast, crush material down very small, then they have to go through a process of concentrating that material back up and then trying to smash it down small again to get into graphene. We don't have to do that. As you saw, we had a very simple process and we're able to skip a lot of those stages, which makes things potentially a lot cheaper. Lithium-ion batteries still cost 20 to 50% higher than the US Department of Energy targets are for mass take-up of vehicles. So while Ford and some of the major manufacturers are certainly going in there, it'll go faster the cheaper they are. Costs are dropping fast, but they're not dropping as fast as they used to be. So the curve is flattening out. You're getting an exponential decrease now on your benefits. So Talga offers an entirely new way of making the same material that can revolutionise batteries, and in the future, that's on the cost side, future battery technologies like lithium air, lithium sulfur, all the other types of battery technologies which are exploding in investment around the world, most of them rely on graphene, including silicon carbon, which there's a big increase in the amounts of silicon being used in batteries currently. So essentially, we're technology agnostic on what type of battery is going to come along. So compared to our competitors that are focusing just on current technologies, we actually cover the bases going forward. The coatings industry is very, very large. We've already had peer review science confirm that our material causes massive increases in performance in graphene. Here's a graphene-rich coating on a steel substrate. This is a product we're developing to go underneath the paint of your cars. Essentially, the outside of the steel of all your cars and all your white goods at home are all coated with what's called a metal pre-treatment. The metal pre-treatment market is very large, it's very primal, and we've shown that our product has got a fantastic performance in it, which you can see here. On the left is a current chromate-containing material. Chrome, hexavalent chrome in particular, is being outlawed in many countries. The REACH legislation in Europe is knocking it out this year. Paint and coatings manufacturers are very concerned at the impact of their materials on the environment. It's their #1 concern. And replacing that with things like phosphate and other environmental nasties. Graphene, being a form of carbon, is very benign, and they're very, very interested in it. Fortunately for us, the materials we've made have got superb performance in these applications, as I mentioned, up to 300% better in many applications. So that alone is a very, very large application. While doing some work on that, on the marine side, which is a big market, so you get pretty good margins for anti-corrosion and anti-fouling coatings. So we were doing some work on the epoxy resins, and we've discovered some very, very good performance in the graphene in epoxy resins, which means they can also go into the wings of carbon fibre aircraft, and they can also improve the performance of carbon fibre in cars. How? By adding a small percent of graphene, like 1%, you can increase the strength of the carbon fibre by 100%, meaning you can double the strength, or if you want, you can halve the weight. So the graphene can also make the plastic essentially conductive, so we can run an electric current through the wings, give you lightning protection on planes, which would have helped me get here faster yesterday out of Sydney, frankly. So there's all sorts of benefits from adding graphene in. They're multifunctional. You can make things stronger and conduct electricity if you want, all at the same time. Currently, there are companies working on sensors for essentially measuring the wind velocity, and what's happening with the wings is actually the sensors are built into the fabric, which you can do by making the fabric of the plane conductive, and that's what graphene can do. So we have a future in that. And that also feeds into lightweighting. Remember that in vehicles, if you make an electric vehicle, if you put someone my size, you're going to lose a lot of kilometres. The amount of CO2 per kilometre depends on the weight of everything that's in the car. There's 60 kilos of weight in just the copper wire in a Mercedes S-Class, and if you replace that with a carbon-rich plastic that does the job instead, you essentially can extend the range, or you drop your CO2 per kilometre. So there's a massive drive around the world for light weighting of vehicles, and that's where graphene can come in, because you make those products stronger, you can make them lighter, and you can replace some of those metals with essentially a very lightweight material called carbon. in a graphene form. And lastly, I'll just touch briefly on concrete. Concrete doesn't sound very sexy, shall we say, but of course it's a massive market. One of the European leaders does 82 million tonnes a year of aggregates into the concrete market. When you have a wind farm, the power coming out loses quite a lot through heat loss that you want to get away from the cables. If the temperature builds up too high, then you actually have less efficiency and that costs you money. So putting carbon-rich concrete around cables is quite an emerging market in the green sector, and also making roads ice-free and snow-free. Anyone that was stuck at a snowed-in airport sometime in the last few months in the Northern Hemisphere probably would have appreciated having a snow-free apron where the graphene mixed into the concrete is a solid state conductor, and by running an electric current, maybe 9 volts through that concrete, you would have kept it warm, just above freezing, and you would have had no snow. Compared to currently putting salt or other chemicals onto the road, which then washes away, causes corrosion of your infrastructure, this is actually quite a big driver in the space. Talga is probably one of the few companies in the world that can produce graphene at a low enough cost and a large enough volume to impact on this market. We're doing some test work on that now. You can see the results of soon. We've currently got joint ventures with large companies like Tata and others, also smarter startup companies that are related to larger companies as well, mostly in the European space. We have about $8 million in cash last quarter. I'm the second largest shareholder with a lot of skin in the game. Scandinavian largest shareholder, and Mark Creasy there you can see in number 4, who seems to know what he's doing. Market cap of the company is about 70 million today. I would say based on our potential, that is very cheap. Our new chairman, Terry Stinson's background, he's currently with Orbital Corp, very good relations into aerospace, and we're certainly enjoying some of his commercial skills coming into the company. And I'll leave you with the idea that we have a huge amount of news flow now that's been backing up while we've been building the business, and we're looking forward to presenting a lot of that data to you in the very near term. So please join us or see me at the booth outside during the break. Thanks, everyone.